Hello everyone, I'm Michael and welcome to my new video tutorial in which we will be installing Dynamics CRM 2016. This is the latest Dynamics CRM edition which was released about a month ago from Microsoft. The installation process is not really different from Dynamics CRM 2015, but if you want to set up the new version, I would advise you to follow this tutorial. It has everything you need instead of my previous one for 2015. You have links to all the setup files in the video description, which include the CRM download and the trial edition of SQL. And I will be installing this on brand new machines in order to get as many possible errors and issues during the setup. So maybe you encounter them too and you'll know exactly what to do. I have 3 virtual machines here. They are all in the same domain. A CRM server for the application, SQL server for the database, and an Active Directory server. Obviously we will need it because CRM is an Active Directory based system. So we will be starting with the SQL installation. I am using a domain admin account, so I won't have any permissions issues. You need to make sure that your account also has the appropriate permissions. We'll go to the SQL, which I downloaded previously, and run the setup. So we're going to go to installation. And we're going to install a new SQL Server standalone installation. In my case, I'm going to choose the evaluation. If you have a serial key, then you can use it. I'm going to click Next. Accept the license agreement. You can use the update if you want to update the SQL setup files. I'm not going to do this right now, so I'm going to click Next. We're going to choose the SQL Server feature installation. What we need to choose here is the database engine service, full text, reporting services, and we need the management tools also. So just a little explaining here, we are going to install the database engine to the default directory, which is on drive C. If you're doing the installation on a production environment, I would advise you to maybe to change it to create a dedicated drive for the installation and also a dedicated drive for the database files. One for the data, one for the logs, and one for the tempdb, according to Microsoft SQL best practices. But again, this is just for demonstration purpose. So we're going to install everything on the same drive. Click Next. Okay, so first issue, we need to install Microsoft .NET Framework 3.5. I think if I recall, server 2012 R2 might have an issue installing it in the regular way. We're just going to try it. You need to go to the features of the server, click Next, Next, and under features you need to install .NET Framework 5. I have a feeling that it might fail, but we're going to see. Okay, so the installation succeeded. It didn't have any issues. What I was saying earlier is that I've encountered some issues with installing .NET Framework 3.5 on server 2012 R2. In this case, there is a script that resolves it. I'm also going to write it in the video description. So we're going to hit close. We can close this. We're going to rerun the tests. We're good. Alright, so the instance I'm going to leave it default. You can change it if you want. We're going to hit Next. Okay, so here we have the service accounts. Like I said earlier, this is a test environment. We're doing this only for demonstration purposes, so I'm just going to leave it like this. If you're installing in a production environment, I would advise you to create dedicated accounts for the SQL Server agent and the SQL Server database, and to run them under domain account. Collation, we're not going to change it. We're just going to click Next. Okay, so we're going to use Windows authentication. We don't need mixed mode for the CRM. We're going to add our current user to the deployment, and under data directories, like I said earlier, I'm not going to change anything here because this is for testing only. If you're installing on a production environment, I would highly recommend you to change the tempdb directory and the tempdb log directory to a dedicated drive, and also to separate the installation of the database file to one drive and the log file to a different drive. Okay, so we're going to click next. Reporting services is mandatory for CRM, so we're going to click install and configure, and it will configure the reporting services. Click next, and that's it. We're ready to install. So we're going to click install. It might take him a while depending on your hardware. We're going to get back when it's done. Okay, so the installation completed successfully. You can close the windows. The first thing that I would advise you to check before we continue is that you can access the Management Studio of SQL. Okay, so we're going to hit connect. Basically, for now, what we just need to check is that the databases are accessible, and we can close it. Also, before we continue, I advise you to check that the reporting services are properly configured and they are accessible. You can do it by going to the Report Services Configuration Manager, hit connect, go to the web service URL and click the URL right here. First time you access it might take a minute or two, but it should load without any issues. Okay, so I just need to hit my password. Just use. That's it. This is good. We can close everything and we can continue with the installation. Okay, so now that we have SQL installed and configured, we can go and start the CRM installation. Before that, we need to go to the Active Directory machine. I'm going to show you what we need to do. As I mentioned before, CRM is using Active Directory, and it needs an organizational unit in order to create its security groups inside. So what you need to do is go to your Active Directory machine. Obviously, you need the appropriate rights to do so. And you need to create an OU. It doesn't really matter where you create it. The most important thing is that the user that you are installing CRM with has full rights over this OU. Now I am using a domain admin account, so I won't have this issue, but you need to make sure that you do have those permissions. So we're going to click new. We're going to choose organization unit. I'm just going to call it CRM 2016. You can call it whatever you want. And we're going to go to the CRM server. And this is the server that we're going to install the application on. So I downloaded the installation earlier. We're going to go right ahead and start the setup. We're going to go to install. You need to extract. This is the file that you're going to download from Microsoft. You need to extract it. It might take him a couple of minutes. So we're going to choose a path. I'm going to put it on the desktop, create a new folder called CRM 2016. I'm going to hit OK. And this might take him a couple of minutes. Okay, so we've extracted the installation files. And we can go ahead and run the installation. So we're gonna go to the folder, run the setup server. So here you're being asked if you want to get the latest updates for the CRM or not. I would advise you to get the updates. I'm going to choose do not get because this is a test environment. You're gonna click next. So the product key, this is the trial product key. You can take it from the CRM installation on Microsoft website. It is valid for 90 days, after which you will need to provide a proper serial number. I'm gonna hit next, accept. Those are all the prerequisites. You obviously need to install them, so we're just gonna click next. Might take them a few minutes, and it just sets them up, and we're gonna get back when it's done. Okay, so we have all the prerequisites installed. We're gonna hit next. Close this. We're gonna hit next. It asks us we want to install the program files itself. We're gonna hit next. So here we are being asked if we want to install a specific role on the server, on the CRM server, or the whole roles. Just a little explanation here. CRM is consisted of front server, a back server, and the deployment administration server. In a production environment, I would advise you to split those servers. One server for the front, another server for the backend server, and the deployment administration server. And now this is a bit big of a topic because you can use a load balancer, a lot of stuff. But again, this is just for testing purposes. So we're just gonna install everything on the same server. We're gonna click next. So here we are being asked for the SQL server. We're just gonna type the name of the server we installed previously. Its name is SQL 2014. And we're going to create a new deployment. If you're installing an existing, if you're installing CRM and you want to connect it to an existing server, an existing deployment, then you're going to choose the second option. Here we are creating a new deployment, so we're going to click next. Here we are being asked for the organization unit we created previously, so we're going to click browse. Okay, so this is the OU we created earlier. We're going to choose it. We're gonna click next. Okay, so service accounts. In this particular scenario, I will show you how to create a service account. Again, in testing environment, it's not really important, but in production environment, you should use a dedicated service account for each role. We'll create one and use it, so you know how exactly how it works. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get back to the Active Directory server. And we are going to create some dedicated service accounts, actually just one. You can create it anywhere you want, but I will create it here inside the OU. So we're going to create a new user. We will call it CRM SVC. We're going to give it a password. You should use a complex password, and you should always choose password never expires, because you don't want your service to have an expired password and take the whole system down. So we're gonna hit next, and we're good. Now we're gonna get back to the installation, and here we're going. I'm just going to make it easier for me. CRM SVC. I'm just going to copy it. To everything and hit the password. Alright, so we're good to go. I'm gonna hit next. Here we're being asked regarding the IIS. CRM creates a dedicated website on the server from which you will be accessing the CRM web client. Best thing to do is just to choose the default website. It will be with port 80. But you can create a new website with a different port if you want. We're going to use the default website here. I'm going to hit next. Email router server name. We're not going to fill this because this is not part of the installation we're doing today. So we're just going to leave it blank for now. We're going to hit next. Display name. So this is the organization. You can choose whatever you want. I'm just going to call it like that. You can choose the currency and the SQL collation, which you usually don't need to mess around with this. So you have the organization name. Usually it will be your company name or whatever you want it to be, and the currency that you are using. So we're going to click next. This is the report server URL. Before you click next, I would advise you just to copy it and to make sure that you can access it. Great. You can close it, hit next, next again. I would advise you to not use the Microsoft update here, because what it basically means is that your server will automatically download the updates for Dynamics CRM server, and you wouldn't want to do it in a production environment. You want to be the one that decides if you want the new rollup installed on the server or not. So I'm going to choose I don't want to use the Microsoft update. I'm going to hit next, and this is the validation wizard. Everything should be fine, but it might not be. All right. We have some errors, which is good because we're going to fix those now. Okay, so here it says that the SQL agent is down. In order for the setup to run, you need to have the SQL agent up and running on the SQL server. So we're going to get back to the SQL server. Let's see. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to services. You can go there by typing services.msc. We're going to go to SQL agent. First, I'm going to change it to automatic. I like to have it running, and then we're going to start it. So this is the first error we had, the second actually. Just to make sure, we're going to click back next to see that it is resolved. Alright, so the second problem we have is with the CRM SBC, the account that I created earlier. It says that it does not have the performance counter permissions. So what we need to do to resolve this is we need to go to the local users and groups. We're going to go to groups, and you can see that under groups, if you hit detail here, it says the account specified to run the Microsoft Dynamics application does not have the performance counter permissions. So what you need to do is to add it to this group, performance log users. You need to double click it, click add, and to add the user we created earlier to run the CRM services. We're going to add it here. Right, we're going to hit back, next again, and we are good. We have some warnings here regarding security, because we used just one service account, but again, this is a testing environment. You shouldn't see it in a production environment if you use the best practices and multiple service accounts for the installation. So now we're just going to hit next, again next. You have all the summary here of the installation, and we're going to hit install, and I'm going to see you when this is finished. Alright, so finally the installation completed successfully. It took him about 30 minutes, and now you're being asked to restart the computer. I'm not sure if it's really necessary, but we are going to do it. And after the computer loads, we're gonna check that everything is okay. So after your CRM server reboots, what you want to do is go to the deployment manager. You can find it under the programs, deployment manager. Inside, you can find all sorts of information regarding the installation we just did, the servers, deployment administrators, all sorts of stuff. What you need now is go to the organizations, right-click the organization, and hit browse. CRM should load, and that is pretty much it. The first time you started, it might take him a few minutes, but this is it. So after you're done, you can access the CRM through the URL according to your server name. It would be HTTP, your server name, and the organization name you provided. If you are within a network and you don't have any restrictions or firewalls, you should be able to access this URL from all the computers. And that's it. That's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that the tutorial was informative, and thank you for watching. See you in the next tutorial.